This week, Mel checks out the brand new HD reboot of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker to see if it holds up to her rose-tinted memories. Kingsley heads back to the war zones with a look at Battlefield 4, and we get our hands on 4 very different quadcopters in case you want to do some flying in the real world. This is Player Attack. In the news this week, the PlayStation 4 is under fire after the shock announcement that it is stepping away from the PlayStation 3's function as a media center. At launch, the new console will not feature DLNA support, so you will not be able to stream videos or other media from your home PC. While it will play DVD and Blu-ray movies, it won't support audio CDs or MP3 playback, seriously limiting the console's functionality as anything other than a games machine. The news came directly from Sony in an FAQ that also acknowledged the console will not support external hard drives. At the same time, Microsoft released a statement about the Xbox One. Simply, it will be DLNA compatible, so you will be able to use the machine as a receiver when you're streaming media from other devices like your PC. You will be able to play audio CDs, but won't be able to rip tracks or play MP3s, even if you're playing the tunes on a device connected via USB. If you want to listen to music on your Xbox One, Microsoft suggests you look into Xbox Music, which comes with a $10 monthly subscription fee. Now, let's get some more of this week's bad news out of the way. EA's upcoming free-to-play browser-based adaptation of Command & Conquer has been cancelled, and the development studio has been closed. Feedback from the recent alpha test was clear. Victory Games simply was not making the game that fans wanted, and rather than trying to fix it, this version has been axed. While Command & Conquer has traditionally focused on single-player strategy, the new reboot was built around a multiplayer experience with a vibrant economy system. Gamers resisted the idea of pay-to-win despite the developers' protests, with many rejecting the in-game microtransactions. This is the 4th Command & Conquer game to have been cancelled in the past decade, with the future of the franchise seemingly in jeopardy. South Park: The Stick of Truth is not cancelled, but it has been pushed much further back than we'd like. The game was due out on Xbox 360, PS3 and PC on December 12, but in a surprise announcement from Ubisoft, we won't be seeing it on shelves until March 2014. The publisher explains that the game had to be turned upside down after THQ auctioned off the property, and series creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker have claimed that it's taken way longer than expected to get the game up to the crappy standards of the show. In other news, Nintendo has launched 5 brand new video series for 3DS. Checking out the Nintendo Video app, you will be able to watch a series of Pikmin nature documentaries, Bravest Warriors from the brains behind Adventure Time, Wild Heart Ryukyu from the developer of Meet or Die, cartoon hangover shorts favourite Bee and Puppy Cat, and The Legend of Zelda: The Misadventures of Link. Microsoft has confirmed that Titanfall is not a timed exclusive. The debut game from Respawn Entertainment will be on Xbox 360, Xbox One and Windows PC for the lifetime of the title. Respawn's co-founder Vince Zampella quickly jumped onto Twitter explaining that the deal did not extend to future titles in the franchise, spawning sequel rumours before the original game has even hit shelves. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag went the other way. We'd been promised a number of Sony timed exclusives for the game, specifically a series of missions focusing on Aveline, the star of Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation. The extra hour of gameplay that Aveline brings to the game was promised to be a timed PlayStation exclusive, available on both PS3 and PS4 for the first 6 months after release. Turns out, that's not actually the case. Ubisoft has explained that it has no plans to bring the extra content to any other consoles, 6 months or any other time after the game's launch. Black Flag also prompted a major shift within Ubisoft this week, just when you thought game publishers weren't listening. The latest Assassin's Creed launched with a bunch of single-player content locked behind a paywall and requiring Ubisoft's Uplay passport if you wanted to play. Now, gamers are used to publishers hiding multiplayer content behind online passes, but did not like single-player being treated in the same way, so they protested. And Ubisoft listened. Within just a few days of release, the Uplay passport requirement for Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag had been dropped. Everybody can now access the entire game, bonus content and all for no extra cost. Even better, Ubisoft has promised that it will not include the Uplay passport in any future games. And finally this week, a sequel set to make many people happy and hungry for brains. The Walking Dead Season 2 is headed our way sometime later this year.
back to how they were?
Yeah, I'm not sure when, but one day.
I hope it's soon.
The 5-part episodic release is in the works again at Telltale Games, and while we are promised more of the same that made the original season so great, there is one big difference. You will be able to play as Clementine. To keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com, but for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
The week that Wind Waker HD was re-released on the Wii U, sales of the console rose up by 685%. We took a look at the game to see if a re-release was really worth all the fuss. We are looking at essentially the same game here. If you're expecting many new additions, you're going to be disappointed. Aside from a few extra tweaks and dialogue boxes to explain how to use the gamepad, Nintendo have not changed a thing, but they didn't need to. This is an example of a classic Zelda game. The major difference you're going to see is in the title. Wind Waker is now in HD, and it is amazing. You'll notice the difference from the opening home screen. At the original release in 2003, I wasn't a fan of the graphics change. Ocarina of Time was my favourite style, and I was happy to see the franchise go back to it in Twilight Princess and then Skyward Sword. Despite the kiddie graphics, I still bought Wind Waker and I was glad I did. It was a solid Zelda game. The story was fun and the graphics suited the adventure and lovable characters. Now being re-released in HD, I was able to get on board a little bit more. You feel engrossed in the game this time. You'll find yourself watching the trees sway in the wind and the birds flying in the distance. The HD upgrade is noticeable in every scene, from the burst of purple smoke when you kill a monster to the sun glare and clouds in the sky. This game is beautiful. In case you didn't run out and buy a GameCube for the first release, Wind Waker begins with a run-through of some Zelda mythology. Basically, you're going to get the story of the Ocarina of Time, which is a great help for new players and super fun to relive for long-time fans. You're then introduced to the Wind Waker story, connecting Link from Hyrule to the little blondie you'll be playing throughout this game. The play mechanics are typically Zelda. The puzzle and quests that we love best from the franchise are all still there. And did I mention you can take selfies now? The highlight of this release for me was the Wii U gamepad. It was nice to go back to using a more standard controller after the Wii Remote-controlled Skyward Sword. Item inventory and map interface on the gamepad is completely user-friendly, especially when typing in your character's name. Finally, a real keyboard. Having the gamepad makes running around as Link an even better experience. To see what items you've collected and peruse dungeon maps, you simply just look down at your gamepad screen and it's all there. This is especially helpful when sailing through the huge ocean from one dungeon to the next. No more flicking through menus and pausing precious gameplay time. The Miiverse is the other new addition to this version, a system for sending messages through the Wii U universe. It's not for everyone, but for those who are really into the interaction side of the Wii U, it adds an extra bit of excitement to your adventure. There's also a new hero mode option for those of us who feel we're a little more skilled than we were 10 years ago and want a bit more of a challenge. Wind Waker still has its downsides. For me, the sailing scenes were sometimes tedious. The novelty of controlling the winds and sailing from island to island wore off pretty early on. And although a swift sail function is introduced to this version, you still feel like you spend a lot of time looking at a boat in water. But this is a minor flaw and a lot of gamers will still enjoy the sailing adventures. Similarly to the GameCube version, the camera angle is great majority of the time, but in some tight situations you might find a wall between you and your character. I also found some of the talking quests a bit dull, but these are typical to a Zelda game and you can always have fun running around the town, cutting grass and smashing pots. Wind Waker is a well-loved game on its first release and has only been improved with the use of the gamepad and stunning new graphics. This is a game that is challenging yet playable for young kids and still loads of fun for the adults. I played Wind Waker on its release 10 years ago and I've loved it even more the second time around. A re-release like this truly shows the merit of a game, and if anything, it's got me excited for an all-new Zelda game on the Wii U.
It's no secret the current generation of consoles have been holding back PC gaming for some time now. The hardware just can't compete with the latest high-end CPUs and graphic cards. While console gamers are spoiled for choice when it comes to pushing the limits of their hardware, PCs just have been vastly ignored. One of the few exceptions to this is the Battlefield series of games. Although the Battlefield series is out on consoles, they have always been first and foremost a PC title, and they have never been scared of pushing the latest tech to the limit. Battlefield 4 is no exception. I could never hide the fact that I'm a fan of the Battlefield series, and I have loved all the previous games, that is, up until Battlefield 3. Battlefield 3 left me a little disappointed. It wasn't just a very linear single player, but it was just the overall look of the game. I'm all for games looking pretty, but not at the expense of the gameplay. I believe DICE got this balance wrong in Battlefield 3. In my opinion, they just made it too hard to see the bad guys, too much glare and too much overall blue look. I'm guessing I'm not the only person who thought this though, because DICE have brought back everything I love about the game with Battlefield 4. That is, except B-17s. Battlefield 4 really has pushed the limits of what a game can do in multiplayer. Let's get some basics out of the way first. There are 4 classes: Assault, Recon, Support and Engineer. Each of those classes have different skills. For example, Recon sports a sniper rifle and C4, and the Engineer carries an RPG and has the ability to repair vehicles. Of course, all these weapons are upgradable as you rank up in the game. You then have the vehicles. These range from fighter jets down to ski boats and 4-wheelers. Anyone can use these vehicles, although I highly suggest you put use of the practice areas to get the hang of your flying first. The multiplayer also includes squads and a unique and detailed commander mode which doesn't occupy one of the 64 available player slots. Of course, if you don't play well with others, there's a single player mode. The single player game is made up of 7 campaigns, ranging from sea, land, snow, forest, and even the belly of the ship. The storyline, while not being the most complex, is still good, and really most of the game is spent shooting rather than watching story development anyway. There is enough character development to keep you interested, and the inclusion of some very strong female characters is also nice, even if you can't play them in single or multiplayer modes.
Clouds are breaking up. The storm is settling. We're in a hurry.
I don't like this shit. What are you, crazy? The 4 of us against an army?
We discussed this mission in detail with Garrison, okay? He was well aware of the risks going in.
No, you discussed it. You discussed it behind my back.
What is your problem? You don't like having a woman in your squad?
I don't have a problem with women. I got a problem with liars!
The single player also uses the same large maps the multiplayer does, which is great for fans of non-linear gameplay. Back in the day when we played a first-person shooter, you could take multiple routes to get to the same destination. Battlefield 4 also has some of these elements. Saying this, there are negatives. First one, can't go without mentioning. I was on a dam, I died, the game went to reload from the checkpoint and locked up and refused to load. The fix was to play the entire campaign again and not die at the same place. This was a substantial chunk of time as I was already 3/4 through the campaign. In any other game, this is the time I threw my hands in the air and refused to keep playing. And this is what I would have done if I wasn't enjoying it so much. Hopefully that'll be fixed in one of the first patches. I have to admit, I see the single player in Battlefield 4 as a prequel to getting online in the multiplayer. You get to learn the weapons, maps and vehicles, all without annoying the other 63 people on the server. But in my opinion, it was still a little shorter than I would have liked. The guys over at DICE and the Frostbite engine never stop amazing me. The ability to have so much happening on the screen, the new destructible worlds, 64 players and the awesome graphics make for a fantastic game. Really, many of the things that turned me away from Battlefield 3 have been fixed, and Battlefield 4 has become one of my favourite games of the year. And in my opinion, the best PC game for some time. It's good to see a company who wants to push PCs to the limit rather than just settling on what a console can do at the time. Although you can get the same great experience on console, I really suggest you upgrade your PC and see what this game can really do.
Quadcopters and remote-controlled camera drones are everywhere these days. The military's using them to check out areas that might not be all that safe. They're popping up on the news, and we're sure more than a few curious neighbours have flown them over suburban fences to find out what lies beneath. We recently got a chance to get our hands on a few different quadcopters, just a small taste of what's out there, and discovered that not only are these gadgets super easy to fly, they're also super fun as well. Starting with the absolute baby of the bunch, the Blade Nano QX Micro. It weighs less than 20 grams, that is just over half an ounce, and it's just 14 centimeters across. It's the sort of thing that you could fly around inside your house or use to annoy people at the office. Despite being so very tiny, it is actually pretty easy to fly. It's really stable and very controllable once you get the hang of it. It features SAFE technology, that is, a sensor-assisted flight envelope, which means the quadcopter will remain upright at all times, giving even the most novice pilot a sense of confidence. It's also somewhat more robust than it looks. Don't go flying at full tilt straight into a wall, but it will manage to recover from a few bumps and crashes. Stepping things up a notch, we have the Blade MQX, and it's a little bit bigger at nearly 30 centimeters and 75 grams. Despite the increase in size, this one is actually more difficult to fly, but not much and not for long. It's less stable but more manoeuvrable, so once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to do all sorts of fancy tricks and spins. This is one that you can take outside, but not in really windy conditions. It doesn't have that SAFE technology, but it does have some stabilisation features, so it's still much easier to deal with than some of the older models. Something that's even more suited to outdoor flying is another Blade, the 350 QX. Compared to the other two, this is huge, weighing half a kilogram and nearly 50 centimeters across. With that extra size comes extra power. This is not a toy. Instead, you're looking at a machine that has more bells, whistles, and extra features than you can poke a stick at. If you're just starting out, fly it in smart mode, which has a GPS altitude lock and a clever bit of technology that means no matter which way the quad is facing, pushing the stick away from you will make it fly away from you. You can also fly it in smart mode, which has the SAFE technology we mentioned before, making it more stable and less likely to flip out. Now, if you're an experienced remote control pilot, and then agility mode is for you. It is pretty twitchy and turns off a lot of the helpful technologies, but if you want to do tricks, that's what you'll have to do. And the other great thing about this particular model, it has an anti-vibration mount designed to hold a video camera like a GoPro, so you can film your flights. All three of these Blade quads require an RC controller or radio-controlled transmitter using Spectrum. The little two can come with a controller in the box, but you're better off getting your own if you want to take it seriously. If you want to try the 350, you will need an advanced controller with extra buttons and switches to control all of this quad's extra options. This brings us to our fourth model. This one doesn't require any additional gear, is easy to fly, and gives you a drone's eye view of your aerial activity, and you've already got the controller right in your pocket. The AR Drone 2.0 from Parrot is controlled entirely from your smartphone, either iOS or Android. The built-in cameras will stream footage directly to your handset, so you can watch the flight as it happens, either with a front-facing view or looking at the ground, and it will record everything in 720p HD. The AR drone is certainly a talking point, but it's more than just a gimmick. It's easy to pick up and fly even if you haven't flown a model plane or helicopter before, and has a bunch of safety features built in if you do lose control. It's got an optional foam bumper hull so that it can be flown indoors without damaging things, or you can take it off to create a stealth outdoor craft capable of some pretty speedy flight even in light winds. That's all if you want to use it as a standard quadcopter. The upside of having this one controlled by a smartphone or tablet means that you can download a whole bunch of apps to make things more fun. Throwing augmented reality into the mix means that your quiet backyard could become the setting for an interstellar battle or a full-on Red Bull-style pylon speed test. Of course, this is just a small sampling of the huge range of quadcopters that are around at the moment. While I'm not sure you could find many that are smaller than the Nano QX Micro, they certainly get way bigger than the ones that we looked at. Quadcopters, hexacopters and octocopters are currently flying around the place that are big enough to carry proper camera rigs for film and TV, but they're probably out of most people's budgets. These smaller ones are great fun, relatively easy to fly, and are available to suit just about anyone's needs. If you're looking to get one that can fly outdoors, like the 350 or the MQX, we suggest joining a local model flying club, like Adelaide's Southern Soaring League, who were kind enough to let us film at one of their indoor flying nights. For more information on the range of quadcopters that are around at the moment, head to your local hobby shop or check out modelflight.com.au, which is where we got ours from.
Get in, get out, get rich. There are guards and security systems everywhere, but you all know your role, so it should be easy to... damn it, run. Just get out of there. Well, that's the nature of heists, and Monaco captures that perfectly. You'll rob a series of classically lootable locations. A bank, a museum, a casino, a jewellery store, and you'll do so using a colourful crew of criminals. The locksmith is obviously a skilled lockpicker. The hacker can disable security systems. The cleaner can silently knock out enemies. The gentleman is a master of disguise. The lookout can detect guards outside line of sight. The pickpocket has a pet monkey to help steal treasure. The redhead can distract guards. And the mole can dig tunnels with his freedom spoon. It's up to you to figure out who's best for each heist. The game is designed so that every mission can be completed with any character, but some are better suited to certain situations than others. Multiplayer, which is the best way to play Monaco, can make things easier by letting you combine the characters' skill sets, but the risk of your partners blundering into a sensor and alerting security adds a new layer of challenge. Throw in a brilliant soundtrack from Austin Wintory, the Grammy-nominated composer of Journey, and you might just find that the vault where we store the crown for Indie Game of the Year has been robbed. But we'll let Monaco keep that.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, we're off to BlizzCon and we will bring back all the latest news on StarCraft, Warcraft and Diablo. We're anticipating information about the Warcraft movie adaptation, details on Heroes of the Storm, and maybe an introduction to the Warlords of Draenor, but who knows what's in store. In the meantime, you can catch us on playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, and if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.